this game for me decides who gets out of the Leinster Championship along with Galway and Kilkenny. It's going to be played in Croke Park, my own Dublin against Wexford. Now, really, that has been the case for Dublin and Wexford. They've been battling it out for third place now for the last few years. The games have always been really, really close. Dublin edged it last year, but then obviously Wexford pulled off, like an unbelievable performance against Kilkenny to leapfrog Dublin into third place and get through. This year, like, one thing is that Wexford haven't really impressed me so far this year. The one game as well where I always look back on is the Clare game in the league. That was just one of the worst performances I've seen in a long, long time. And then the game against Galway, look, they got the brilliant start. They got the 2 early goals and they just didn't capitalise on that really at all. And Galway dominated the rest of the game. Dublin, on the other hand, drawing to Antrim, like when they really should have lost that game. So I don't think either of these teams this year are as good as they have been in previous years.
No, and I think they risk falling down the pecking order if they have another poor year. I think what makes it a little bit more interesting this year is, that top 3. The third place was always Dublin and Wexford, whereas this year some people were saying Antrim might even push in and push hard forward. And look, Antrim drew with Dublin, so
and should have won.
And they're not far off that. Some of Wexford's league performances were terrible. Like you said, they got lucky that they got the good start against Galway, and Galway were going through the motions really throughout that game. So this is, of all the games, the 5 games we're going to look at today, this is the one that's the hardest to call. I think we're looking at 2 teams that are just well below, the sort of the top level teams, like they're like even Galway, Tipperary, they're just way below those teams. But it will be interesting to see who comes out on top. I haven't seen much of Dublin really recently, and to get lucky. Now I know they were up in Antrim, but to get lucky to get the draw, it doesn't sound too good for them. I know it's Donoghue's first year, but there was 3 players that they lost from last year's team. And
Chris Crummy, Liam Rush.
So to lose those players, and it's not as if they were tearing it up anyway, and so it's going to be, I couldn't call this game really. Like, I would not be surprised in another draw, to see these teams draw again. I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I couldn't call this game really.
Yeah, I'm saying it won't be more than 3 points either way. This one will not be more than 3 points. It's a case of, I actually think this. I think Wexford's ceiling is higher than Dublin's, and like comfortably. I think if you look at the performances that Wexford have put up over the last few years, Leinster champions in 2019, a lot of those lads are still in the squad. You look at that game against Tip in that year's semi-final. I know it's 4 years ago, but as I said, a lot of the squad are still there. The victory over Kilkenny last year, I haven't seen Dublin put in a performance like that in such a long time. So, like, for Wexford, like, their ceiling, I think, is higher. But then I've also seen them in the last 2 years draw against Westmeath when no one saw that coming. I've also seen them completely be dominated in games, like, for example, the Clare game. I think Wexford have the higher ceiling, but Dublin are a little bit more consistent in terms of what you can kind of expect from them every time. So I am the same as you. I'm going to go right bang, boring draw. I'm going to say they're both going to leave relatively unhappy, but if either side wins, I think it will not be by more than 3 points. So I'm going to go with a draw in this game.
Yeah,
and
I think you're absolutely right. In the sense that I think Wexford have the better individual players. I think they have Leachin, they have McDonald, O'Connor. Like, they have some really good hurlers. but whether they get the best out of them sometimes is another issue. So and knowing where to play some of those players is another thing. But I would, if I was going to pick one team, I would lean towards Wexford by maybe a couple of points. But I think I'll go with a draw. I think that's what it might be.